Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea Troy and I'm going to be doing some live coding on the Zooniverse mobile app. The Zooniverse mobile application is a React Native dual platform application for Android and iOS that allows people like you and me to do citizen science. In this video, I'll do a quick introduction to what that is and how the app works so that you have a reference to understand the general context for the future videos where we'll be writing features and fixing bugs. So first, let's take a look at what the Zooniverse is. So, the Zooniverse is an organization dedicated to citizen science. The way that it works is that a researcher who has a whole lot of data, let's say this is an astronomy researcher with a whole bunch of images from the Hubble telescope, can create a project on the Zooniverse with all of those images, and they have to classify whether there are galaxies or not in each of these images. If there are 4 million images from the telescope, that can take a really long time to do. So what they'll do is they'll put the images into their project, and then people like you and me can go into our accounts on the Zooniverse, and we can classify the images ourselves as having a galaxy in them or not having a galaxy in them. It's a really interesting opportunity for folks to learn a little bit about science and contribute to science research themselves. People really like it for having an opportunity to contribute and learn at the same time while they're swiping on their phones during their commute or just for fun on a day when they're relaxing. So now this is the idea, and let me go ahead and show you the mobile app. We can classify a couple of things on the mobile app so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm logged in here on my iOS simulator to my work account for the Zooniverse, and I can choose from these categories what kind of project I want to contribute to today. So I can click on biology, come down. Let's take a look at floating forests. So this is a project that allows us to identify kelp. You'll go through this field guide at the beginning that'll give you a good idea of what it is you're supposed to be doing on the project. And then we can go ahead and say whether or not there are kelp in each of these images. I don't think that there are kelp in that image. I don't think there are kelp in that image. Don't think there are kelp in that image. I can also swipe right or left to indicate whether I think there are kelp or not in the image. If I have any questions, I can go to the field guide and get a refresher on what it is I'm supposed to be looking for in here. So that's generally what the Zooniverse does. We have a couple of different types of projects that you can do inside of our mobile app. One of them is the swiping flow that you've just seen. There's also the opportunity to answer questions in some flows, and there's also the opportunity to draw. So for example, if we have a project where there's a camera, a motion operated camera in the Serengeti, let's say, and we need to identify whether or not there are animals in images and then also draw boxes around those animals, we can do that with that drawing classifier and draw boxes around animals so that the researchers can see where in the image the animal might appear. That's a general rundown of what it is that our app does and why somebody would use it. Now let's take a look at some of the code. So the Zooniverse mobile app is open source. You can find it on GitHub at zooniverse/mobile. Like I said, it's a React Native app. So if you want to develop on the app yourself, you want to go ahead and get set up with React Native. There are instructions on how to do that. And there are also instructions here on how to set up our app specifically for Android and for iOS as well, with some contact information if you end up having any trouble. This is the app on which I will be doing development in a live streaming format on this channel. So now let me go ahead and show you the code. React Native is chiefly JavaScript, so I tend to do most of my code editing here in WebStorm, which is an integrated development environment specifically for JavaScript development. We've got the code here for our app. If I need to do anything natively in Android or iOS, I'll open Android Studio or Xcode respectively, but the vast majority of the coding that we'll be doing together is likely to be here in WebStorm. We'll also be debugging in our simulator. So here I have an iOS simulator up, and additionally in my browser, I have a debugging console available for this app. So if I were to put print statements into my code and then run the app on the simulator, I would be able to see that inside of the console here. I can also inspect individual elements in the console here, or by hitting Command I on my simulator and then tapping on a given element in order to inspect what's going on inside that element. So we'll be using these debugging tools a fair amount while we're doing our live coding. In order to get up and running, I recommend following these instructions first, which will help you get set up, and then moving down to these instructions. Our app version right now is React Native 0.598. So that's the version of the framework that we're on. I think it's just one minor version behind React Native. I think that we're at 60 right now. Yep. So we're pretty close to the latest. And I'm excited to live code with y'all. I'm hoping that it will be a great opportunity for folks to see some live development on React Native specifically, and then live development in general. I'm hoping that it'll make it a little bit more accessible for folks to get involved in mobile development if they want to, and mobile development on our open source project specifically if they're interested. And I'm also hoping that it exposes more developers to the idea of citizen science and some of the cool things that they can do with their development skills to help democratize I guess, research and information. So that's it. I'll see you next time when we start doing some actual development work.